G'day guys, and welcome to the Pumped on Property Show. Now, you're just sitting here today with Ben. Now, if you're in the car, welcome. If you're at the gym, if you're on your commute somewhere, or if you're just sitting at home having a beer, just picture me literally sitting there next to you having a chat, because today's session is a little bit different. It's just you and I sitting down person to person and talking through something that's so important to me personally, and that is the psychology of winning investors. Now, I wanted to start this podcast with a quote from one of my favorite speakers of all time. Now, his name is Denis Waitly, and Denis was the US Olympic team psychologist for about almost 20 years. Now, he's had as much or more experience than anybody in history in terms of training and working with the top performing athletes in the world from a psychological perspective. And a lot of today's podcast is going to go back to one of my favorite books that he wrote called The Psychology of Winning. So Denis has this incredible quote, which I absolutely love, and it is very, very simple. There are two primary choices in life: to accept conditions as they exist, or to accept the responsibility for changing them. Now, I'm going to say that one again. There are two primary choices in life: to accept conditions as they exist, or to accept the responsibility for changing them. So, for some reason at the moment, I've just got this huge shot in the arm, which is I'm back in control of my life. I'm taking full responsibility for the decisions in my life. I'm looking after my family better. I'm looking after myself better. I'm looking after my health. I'm looking after my businesses and my investments better as well. And that's another thing that he talks about, which I think is super important. And it'll be the third thing that I talk about in a lot more detail today. But winners win in every aspect of their life. And it's very, very difficult to be physically healthy and to be super broke long term. It's very, very difficult to have a great relationship with your partner and not to have a good work environment. It's very, very difficult to have a happy life and not to end up in a financially successful place. So I think all of these things that we're going to touch on today are super important as investors. Now, one of the major things from this book that I absolutely love is this idea around, and the first idea I wanted to talk about today, which is winning isn't a single action. Winning is a lifestyle. Now, subconsciously, I must have known this as an investor personally. Now, as you guys know, I've helped our clients buy over $350 million worth of property and bought 11 properties myself. So everything that I'm talking about on this podcast is drawing from those experiences over the last 10 years. But winning isn't a singular action. Just like going on a holiday for a month isn't going to completely change your life, or thinking differently for a week isn't going to change all of the years of conditioning that you've had, or going to the gym or going for a run once isn't going to allow you to actually go and do a marathon. So I love this concept that winning as an investor is really a lifestyle, and it's a commitment to financial freedom. And that means so much more than just the money side of things or just the property side of things. It means letting go of your ego. It means really sitting down and looking at yourself in the mirror and realizing that we're all broken people in one way or another. We all have challenges. We all have a past. We all have different values. We all have different ideas around money. And you're going to have to confront those things as you move forward, which is the responsibility that Denis talked about in that quote I mentioned a moment ago. That it's a commitment to a long-term lifestyle, that if you do want financial security in the future, and you don't want to put yourself or your family in a financially hard position right now, then you need to realize that security comes from a longer term approach. And, you know, it sucks that it's going to take you 10, 15, 20 years to achieve financial freedom. I've been working for it for 10 years. I'm still not where I want to be, but I'm significantly closer to it than I was 10 years ago. So winning or achieving what it is that you want to achieve as an investor is a commitment to a lifestyle, and it's not a short, sharp sprint. It's not about the bullshit that the magazines have you believe that it's a get-rich-quick scheme. It's not what the media will have you believe right now, which is the whole world's going to fall on its head. The cool thing about sentiment like this is generally the market has already priced it in. So you can see that some markets are doing okay in Australia right now and some markets are going backwards a little bit. The markets that are going backwards absolutely should be going backwards right now because they were overpriced, not just by Australian standards, but by international standards. But what does that mean? Do you stick your head in the sand for the next 5 years or 10 years and wait for Sydney and Melbourne to be affordable for you again? Or do you start to educate yourself on different opportunities like the Gold Coast, Sunshine Coast and Brisbane? Winning is a commitment and it is a lifestyle, and it takes time to build up the knowledge and skills to actually walk forward in the direction of your dreams and achieve financial freedom. And if you're not prepared to go through the next 15 years to achieve it, and you're looking for the quick fix, I can guarantee 15 years from now, you won't be any closer to where you want to be, because the problem with the quick fix and not actually earning it or turning it into a long-term, day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month lifestyle is that often the money that comes into the hand that easily also slips out of the other hand just as easily. So I like this concept around winning isn't an action, it's a lifestyle. Now, another thing that Denis talks about in this book, which is the psychology of winning, is this concept of losers let things happen. Now, this is an old book, so just bear with the terminology for me, because I hate this concept of winning and losing, because just because you're not financially successful right now or financially free doesn't mean you're not absolutely kicking ass in every other area of your life or well on the way to that journey. Or just because you're financially free doesn't mean that you've not fucked up your life and broken your relationship with your family or your kids or your partner or your friends, or you've wrecked your health. Like, winning to me has to be across all areas of life, not just a single part. But losers let things happen, winners make things happen. And I completely believe this, regardless of my rant just then about the context or the actual language there. And I like it because so many people allow life to happen to them. So many people have an excuse for what's happening around them. So many people think it's the media's fault or the government's fault or some rich person's fault or somebody else's fault or some dude that ripped them off. But these people that never actually take responsibility for their own lives are the ones that actually end up on the pension and then expect somebody else to give them a handout for the rest of their lives. And it absolutely breaks my heart that so many people end up in that position. And the thing that, people that end up in a good financial position with good relationships, good health, and the type of lifestyle that they want is they make things happen. And as investors, we can think about that and we can go out there and make things happen. It doesn't mean going out and physically buying a property right now just because, that's what you need to do. But it means, going out there and listening to podcasts and videos, listening to the updates from CoreLogic, reading the updates from HTW, checking out the Residex thoughts on where the market's at, checking out the BIS Strapnell thoughts on where the market's at, subscribing to the weekly newsletters like ours at Pumped On Property, or subscribing to this podcast so that you can get great information delivered straight to you, or checking out what the guys over there at the Property Couch or Michael Yardney have to say about investing as well. Like, there's just so many great sources of information to make things happen as an investor. Now, the first thing all investors need to do, regardless of where you are, because I'm assuming if you're not financially free right now, you either haven't figured out how to get there and you don't have the right strategy, or you've taken steps to get there and you've got to wait the appropriate amount of time to happen, or you've started taking action but you've taken the wrong action and you've only just realized that, like I did in the past, that my strategy was completely stuffed up and I was going to have to change that strategy if I wanted to achieve what I wanted to achieve in a 10-year period of time. So after we've taken control and made things happen around our education, we then start to look at the marketplace and we go, is the timing right? And that's a whole another conversation which I'm going to talk about in the next podcast that I do, which I think will be episode 10, 11 and 12. And I'm going to really talk about this concept of timing. But, you know, after you understand the timing, and timing's simple, you effectively buy when other people aren't buying, you sell to people that are prepared to pay too much when they're scared of missing out. And it's as simple as that. You know, you sell at the top, you buy at the bottom of any marketplace. And I truly believe that the next 2 years are going to be some of the best buying opportunities in the Australian marketplace in the last 10 years. But a lot of people will sit on the sidelines because they're scared, or because they get their daily updates from Facebook or a current affair or the Today Show or the Morning Show, or from some other media journalist who's clearly an expert and got all of their stuff together, but, you know, aren't financially free and don't actually invest for a living. So, you know, you've got to be careful about where you get that information from. And likewise, you've got to be careful of like the things that people like I say as well. Because I do run a business in the property space, there can be bias there towards property and business and the things that I do as well. So, you know, take it with a grain of salt. But once you've got the timing thing understood, and right now to me is probably a poor time to buy in Sydney or Melbourne, but a great time to buy in Brisbane as of 2018, then you start thinking about the market. And once you've got your head around the market, you then identify the suburbs. And once you've identified the suburb, you then get your head around this concept of taking action around particular properties within the suburb. And that's when you start inspecting and talking to agents until you find what you're looking for. And then the next thing you make happen as an investor is you build your team of advisors, and you get the right solicitor to help you, an accountant to help you, and tax depreciation specialist or buyer's agent or property manager, and all those other people that you need. But each of those things is a small little action of making something happen. And so many people on the sidelines and just wait for it, or, you know, think that setting an intention or meditating on actually achieving what they want to achieve is enough. And that's part of it, but it's not enough. You've physically got to take action, and you've got to make things happen. So all winners make things happen, and all losers let things happen to them. And if you're coming from a place where you've been taught or brought up, or the people that you hang around let things happen to them and never change anything, then that's completely cool, because I came from that sort of place as well. But what I can say after 10 years of working on myself and through these things is that you can change your mindset, you can change the way that you live, you can change the people you hang around, you can change the people that you get information from, and you can learn to become a great investor over time, even if you've never thought about it before. So the next thing that I absolutely love about Denis's book is this concept of winners win in every area of their life. Now, think about the two different types of people in your life. Now, I'm being very, very broad when I say this, but I'm a binary person. It's either a 1 or a 0 for me. You know, I'm either into it or I'm not. I'm focusing on it or I'm not. It's part of my life or it's not. And that's how I've sort of always been. So take this with a grain of salt as always. But the first type of person is that friend or family member you know, or maybe it's you yourself, who no matter what they do in their life, it turns to gold. They, you know, could start a business and the business might work out. They could start buying property and over the long term that works out. They seem to fall on their feet with relationships. They're in good physical health. They've got good relationships with their kids. They seem to have time in their life. You know, maybe they're stressed out sometimes, but generally the stress doesn't get the best of them. They do things on a daily basis to improve their quality of their life, and they look after their mental and physical. And if they're further along the journey, they also look after their spiritual and emotional health as well. So, you know, that person that seems to have the silver spoon, that, you know, is always making stuff happen, that is going about their business, that's generally positive when you talk to them, that takes responsibility for their life. And, you know, that's one type of person, and I hope you're that type of person, or you have that type of person in your life and you know who I'm talking about. Now, the other type of person is, to be really honest with you, the type of person that I cannot fucking stand being around for a second anymore. And that is the complete opposite. And that is the person that complains about their life but won't change it, that doesn't look after themselves mentally, physically, spiritually, that complains about their job, that complains about the weather, that complains about the media, like bullshit, non-stop. Their life's always hard, someone's always out to get them, or they're always out to get someone else. They're constantly in survival mode of fight or flight. All they ever do is talk about themselves because they can't get out of their own fucking way and actually start serving and thinking about other people. Their whole world and their day and their minutes revolve around them. They have no idea how to ask you anything about yourself. All they do is talk about themselves and the shit that's going on in their life, or the media, or the news, or whatever else, the job that they've lost. And you can identify these people a mile away because they don't have strong relationships in their lives because people don't want to hang out with them. Or if they do have relationships, it's generally with like-minded people. You know, generally these types of people hit booze or hit drugs or do, you know, that sort of stuff far more regularly. You know what I'm talking about. I can guarantee that unfortunately someone in your family's like this, or someone in your extended family. I can think of about almost all of my extended family who's like this. Personally, a lot of friends that I grew up are like this. You know, it's just, it's really sad. Like, it's actually devastating that people live their lives like this, thinking that they don't have any ability to change them or control them in a positive way. Now, I realize that, you know, you and I have listened to a lot of this sort of stuff, and we've had these conversations before, or there's people in our lives that we can have this, or maybe we didn't come from like absolute rock bottom poverty, and so it's easy to have a mindset where things can be more positive for the future. Or maybe we had great parents, you know, or maybe we've had great mentors in our lives that have helped us become like this. But yeah, it's a funny thing, like this concept of winners winning in every area of their life. And, you know, someone with 3 kids who are all 6, I've got a 6-year-old Summer, 4-year-old Harper, and a baby Cove who's 10 months old. And, you know, I was writing a little facey post over there at our Facebook page, Pumped on Property. We've also got Instagram now, Pumped on Property as well. And the YouTube channel, Pumped on Property. If you haven't already subscribed or liked or followed us, please do that. Please subscribe to this podcast as well. But, you know, someone who's gone through that, and I was writing this post today around just some of the things that I've gone through. And the thing about actually taking responsibility for your life and winning in every area of your life as an investor is it's really uncomfortable. And it's, you know, there's good times because you do things that other people aren't prepared to do, and so, you know, you get better results physically or mentally or financially than other people, and you've generally got high quality relationships in your life because you're more present when you're with those people. But it can be also very, very difficult, and I'm going to talk about this at the end of the podcast, which is my mental health and all of the things that I've gone through personally over the last 10 years, and the roller coaster around, you know, just how much it takes to actually create a life that you want to lead. Like, I was writing this post, and in the last 6 years since we found out we were going to have Summer, we've moved 7 times. We've bought, built and renovated 7 properties. We've started 2 businesses. We've had 16 employees. We've traveled the world. We've traveled Australia. You know, we've just had so much stuff going on. We've got married, we got engaged. You know, we moved into our dream home and moved out of it. We moved into another dream home and moved out of it. You can see the pattern here, but so much stuff has happened. And, you know, I kind of went on a bit of a rant like I like to do, as you guys know. And I just sort of looked at all of that activity and how much of an effect it's had on our lives in a positive way. But so many people, you know, particularly online now, just talk about how sick everything's going, and from somebody else's perspective it can all look good. You know, when Denis says that winners win in every area of their life, it can often look like that to somebody else. Like, if you were to go to my wife's Instagram page, you would think she's like Mother Earth with the 3 kids living the absolute dream life. But the reality is that's us capturing the best parts of her day, all week, all year. And that's the highlight reel. Like, behind that, like any parent knows, there's a lot of sacrifice, there's a lot of hard stuff, there's a lot of challenging times in the relationship, there's a lot of tiredness and sickness. There's also like the most amazing stuff, life-changing moments where like you just feel it completely at peace with yourself and the universe, and everything feels like it's heading in the right direction. But, you know, to look at somebody else's life and to just go, that's amazing, or, you know, only they can achieve that, or I shouldn't deserve that, or I'm envious of them, like a lot of Australians are. It's just sad, because you've got to realize that there's a whole story behind everyone's success and everyone's failures. And as I become more empathetic as a person, and as I grow more as a person, and as I focus on other things outside of just making money, I'm realizing that everyone has their own stories. So, you know, winners do win in every area of their life, and that's because they have a positive mindset, they have self-discipline, they're focused, and they have a purpose for their future. Now, I had you know, if you haven't already listened to it, I did a podcast with this absolute 23-year-old legend called Hayden the other day. He's a client of ours, and he's just bought his first investment property. And if you listen to this guy's mindset at 23, just imagine where he's going to be at age 30 or 40 or 50. Like, this is a dude that is on a journey to achieve whatever the fuck he wants to do in his life with his, you know, beautiful partner, because he has the right mindset. But what he has more than anything else is a really strong purpose. Now, his purpose is to achieve financial freedom, but he knows it's going to take 15 to 20 years to do that. So his secondary purpose is, over the next couple of years, to set up a foundation of great properties that will allow him to be free in the future once he pays them off. And then as soon as he's done that, he's packing up out of the shithole that he lives in. No offense, Hayden, but that was your language, not mine, in South Australia, and moving up to the Sunshine Coast to get a probably lower paying job with his soon-to-be wife, and to have some babies, and to absolutely live it up and enjoy himself and travel and train and do all that sort of family stuff that he wants to do after he's put down a couple, maybe 3 really focused hard years of work. And his purpose is to be a great dad, to help other people do what they want to do, and to be financially free. And because he doesn't just have a big vision, but he actually has a focused plan to achieve it, I think Hayden's going to do very, very, very well. And that excites me so much. Another epic client of ours, Katie, I'm not going to mention her business name because I haven't asked her if it's okay for me to do that, but let's just say Katie is like a full-blown inspiration to women everywhere. Now, her and her partner Tim are just about to buy their second property with us, planning for a third next year. And Katie runs this business which helps young women become empowered. And since I've known Katie, literally in 1 year, she has absolutely blown up in Australia and New Zealand. She's just launched her business in Canada and plans on launching it in America, which is going to literally 10 times her already insane life over the next few years. And, you know, Katie has realized that no matter how much she earns in her business or how little, she needs to have a plan B strategy, which is owning and investing in extremely high quality properties outright. Now, right now she's buying Brisbane. In the future, she'll come back into Sydney, Melbourne, and probably America when the time's right. But, you know, hanging out with these people who are winning in different areas of their life, it all comes back to a few simple things. They have a clear purpose or a vision. They are self-disciplined and they do the work. They are focused in what they do. They're not trying to do everything. And they do focus on the positive. But the one thing that they have wrapping around all of the action that they take in the different areas of their life is this self-reflection. They take the time to review what they've done. They take the time to look at themselves in the mirror and work through those hard fucking things that we all have, you know. They work through the challenges, they work through their limitations, they work through their values and they understand what they are. They work through the good times and the bad, but they do it in a way that is, you know, joyful, and, you know, they take the anxiety or the depression or the stresses in their life as just moments as opposed to their entire life, and they realize that achieving anything great as an investor is going to take time, and that there's going to be ups and downs. You know, it's going to be stressful in that year or 2 years or 5 year period that will happen over the next 20 or 50 years, where the market in Australia will at some point drop by 30 or 50%. It's also, and they also understand that over the long term, over a 15 to 20 year period, results in property are fantastic. Now, maybe they won't be as good as your mum or your dad's time or your grandma's or your granddad's time, but they will be positively moving in the right direction over time. And as long as you can stomach the shitty years and hold through them, and the flip side of that is go through the great years as well and not sell out for short-term money, the long-term averages in property will make you wealthy. They'll make you financially free if you can own the properties outright, and they'll give you the choice to do exactly what it is that you want to do with the rest of your life with the people you care about. Now, this concept of self-reflection is really, to be honest with you, something new to me. I wish I could say that it's a natural thing for me to reflect, but I'm just not a person that really lives or dwells too much on the past or even looks back at it. Outside of talking on these videos where I'm forcing myself to look back, or podcasts, I just don't think about it too much. I'm spend a lot of time in the future, and I'll talk about the anxiety that that's created for me in a moment. But I'm beginning to self-reflect a lot more, and I'm beginning to peel back the layers of myself and realize that as an investor, as a person, as a partner, as a husband, as a business owner, as a dad, as a mate to people, as someone who genuinely cares about where you end up. And the reason we create all of this content isn't to make millions of dollars a year. Like, we literally only take on 5 clients a month. We just want to help people get amazing information in a way that hopefully nobody else is saying, because they're not coming from this place where everything they're doing is about putting out good stuff. But self-reflection recently, and the marketplace is making me reflect in a way as well at the moment, or the sentiment around the marketplace is making me realize that we can't be just one-dimensional. We can't just focus on, you know, what's working at the expense of our health, like I did for a lot of years, or the expense of our relationships in our lives, like I've done for a lot of years, or the expense of our spirituality, or, you know, our day-to-day happiness or moment-to-moment presence. Self-reflection is such a powerful thing, and to wrap up everything you're doing in your life, you do need to review. You do need to congratulate yourself when you kick some ass, or you buy a property, or you buy those stocks that you've been planning on buying. But, you know, one thought that Denis had, which I thought was extremely interesting to me in terms of this next stage of this podcast, where I'm going to talk deeply about thoughts and about, you know, the psychology of actually being a winning investor. And that actually means not so much winning when you're winning, but how to overcome the limitations that you have as an investor, is this quote, which is, "You are either the captain or the capture of your own thoughts." You are either the captain or the capture of your own thoughts. And this is another absolute diamond in the rough from Denis's book. I think what he's trying to say there, and why it's important to you and I as investors who want to set ourselves up and our families up with choices in the future, is as investors we can get caught up with making short-term money. You know, anyone listening to this that bought property in Sydney or Melbourne 5 years ago has probably, let's say, made 400k right now. Let's just face it, that's the reality. So we then believe that investing in property is easy, and it gives us a confidence, and a lot of those people will go out and lose money over the next 10 years because they think everything they touch turns to gold, and they believe that the reason that, you know, they did that, myself included, I made some great money down there, was because of what they did. But the reality of that is a lot of that was timing, I now realize, and having the confidence to take action. This concept of, you know, you being either the person who's in control of your thoughts and the challenges that we all face as investors, or the capture of those thoughts and letting those thoughts paralyze you into inaction, is the difference between people who become financially in 15 years or people that become financially in 25 years versus people who talk the big game for their entire life and end up broke or on the pension or just, you know, talking shit like they always have. Now, that's brutal, but, you know, welcome to the Pumped on Property show. I love this concept of, you know, understanding your thoughts as an investor in a bigger way. Now, I've talked about this before. As investors, we all have a similar set of limiting beliefs or limiting ideas that constantly go around in our heads. Now, one of those ideas, I'm talking about the negative challenges that we face is, and the media is on this one right now because it's selling paper, and that is the whole market's going to fall on its face. In fact, the entire world's going to end, and financially the world's never going to be the same again, and nobody's ever going to make money again in property in Australia, and nothing's ever going to be the same again, and it's never going to recover again, and the market's going to drop by 20 to 50%. And, you know, if that happens, that would be a tragedy for some people that are forced to sell during that time. But I can guarantee over the next 10, 15, 20 years, it will be a hard time for some people if that was to happen. I don't think this is going to happen, by the way. I believe it's going to be a soft landing based on what I've been reading. But, you know, we never know. No one has a crystal ball. A 20% drop in Sydney and Melbourne might happen, and that would be, in my opinion, a great thing to just reset the market a little bit before we get off to the races again from about 2020. So if you're in the market to buy over the next year and a half, there is going to be some fucking once in a 10-year opportunity to buy some good stuff. You know, I know a lot of you will just sit on the sidelines because you'll wait and see. That's completely cool as well. Like, I get that not everybody understands when to buy and when to sell. But you will learn that lesson over time, like I have, and like most sophisticators of investors do as well. And that's not having a crack at you know, or myself. It's just the reality. Most people, you know, sell when others are selling and buy when other people are buying, and you're seeing plenty of that at the moment, and you saw plenty of that a couple of years ago too. So, you know, some of these other thoughts that we have outside of the whole world's always going to fall on its head is, I don't have enough time, I don't have enough knowledge, I've got information overload or analysis paralysis, I don't have a plan, I don't have a budget, I don't have the right strategy in place, I have a limited team of advisors, I have no mentor or coach. You kind of get the pattern, and hopefully you're sitting there acknowledging that these are things that all of us as investors go through. I listened to this amazing little live podcast the other day with Tony Robbins, my wife sent to me, where he sat down in a room with 1,000 business people and asked them to provide him with an original thought or an original limiting belief that they had, or a situation that they were experiencing or feeling that was completely independent to them, and not a single person in the room could have an independent thought, because all of these challenges we face as business people, as humans, as investors are universal. Now, they're the high level ones, they're the high level challenges, but the reality of all of these challenges is it's purely linked back to your value system and the way you feel about money and the way you were raised around money, as well as fear. And, you know, some people fight, some people flight, some people freeze, and all of us do one of those things. I'm probably personally more of a fighter, in the sense that I didn't like my situation, I wanted to change it, so I've done a lot of things to actually, you know, work towards it. But fighting all of your life is a shit way to live. I've just realized that in the last 12 months, as my mental health's been affected a little bit from some of the behaviors and ways of thinking that I have, which I'll talk about more in a moment. But, you know, whether it's fear, whether it's control, whether it's those surface level challenges, whether you fight, whether you run away, or whether you freeze and do nothing, all of these decisions and ways that you're living right now and ways that I'm living have an effect on our long-term happiness, the choices in our life, and whether we become financially free or not. Now, it's sad that most of you and most of the people that I know that I've grown up with and my family members won't be financially free, because I was sitting in a spa. My brother-in-law just moved into this cool resort style accommodation where there's like a spa and a sauna and a gym, and we go around there every Sunday afternoon, just the boys and some of our friends, and we catch up about all sorts of stuff that's going on. Like, some of them are single, so they talk about what happened over the course of their week, which is always interesting. They've always got a story. And we talk about the future, we talk about the past, we talk about the stuff we're going through. It's actually like just a full-blown, bonding session type thing, where we train and we have a sauna and we have a spa. And I was sitting in the spa talking to one of my mates, and he was sitting there. Now, he's a smart dude, actually, one of the most intelligent guys I've ever lived with and ever known in my life. And him and I are best mates, and he's 37 now, and he doesn't have a plan for his financial future. And I said to him in the spa, like, not directly to him, but I said, it's fucking sad that, I'm financially free at 33, and that, by 35 or 40, that there's never going to have to be another day of work in my life again. And that, unfortunately, if he keeps living his plan, and he's earning a huge income, like his combined income with his wife is well over 200k a year. They've got a nice car. They live like walking distance to our favourite surf spot on the sunny coast, that Watala there. Anyone that hasn't surfed Watala, man, it's got like an epic amount of rock underneath the sand that just, best beachy that I've ever surfed in the world. And I've surfed a lot of places. But it's sad that, right now he's looking down the barrel of working for another 30 years, where my wife and I could stop working today if we wanted to, because we've been really smart about what we've done over the last 10 years. And this is the reason I create this content, I don't want you sitting there going, I want to be financially free and I'm setting my intention that I want it, but I don't actually have a plan. Like, he's making enough money to become financially free in 10 years. If I could talk to him honestly, like I'm talking to you right now, I'd sit him down and I'd say, this is your plan. I'm going to help you do it for free for him. And, just trust me that if you do this and you do it exactly the way that I, walk you through this, that you will be in a position where you've got any choice you want to make in your life. Now, he hates his job. He hates it. Like, he works in a massive pharmaceutical company. He's a manager. He's got, 99 problems from a work perspective in his life. His work doesn't line with his values. All he wants to do is help other people as well. But he doesn't have the choice to, and he's so uncomfortable about his mortgage on his home, and he's always worried about his work. He's either talking about getting a redundancy, which he says that he wants, but he doesn't really, or walking away from the job, or starting something else. And it's just this huge never-ending circle. And it's, to be honest with you, just so sad. It's such a waste of talent and a waste of life. And he doesn't get that him not taking action for the last 10 years, while we've been mates and I have been, has resulted in, if he doesn't do anything else, he's going to have to work for another 30 or 40 years longer than I need to, or that you might need to if you do smart stuff over time. And that's just devastating. Like, I want to spend the next 30, 40 years just hanging out with this dude. He's such a legend. I want to surf, train, travel the world with him and his family. But he's not going to have that choice unless we do something about it, or he does something about it. And, that's a hard one. And that's the reality of most people that like, you're beginning to figure this stuff out right now, or maybe you've been figuring it out for a while and you're beginning to put a plan in place to actually become financially free. And for anyone that doesn't have a clear plan right now, just check out the 2 Properties to Financial Freedom strategy over at our YouTube channel. I don't know if I've done a podcast on it yet. If I haven't, I will at some point soon. It's just an idea. You could do 1, you could do 10 properties. Whatever you want to do you. Don't get caught up in just 2 properties, because some people want 500k a year of passive income. Other people want 50 grand. Wherever you sit in that scale, or maybe you want 10 mil, you do you, whatever that looks like. But it's just an idea and a strategy to achieve financial freedom simply, cleanly, and in a relatively short period of time, in a secure and more safe way, without taking on risk or debt. The cool thing about the strategy is it does not matter in any way if you get $1 of capital growth over the next 30 years or not. the whole property market in the world could crash and you will still be financially free. Although I do believe that over the next 30 years, your property will probably triple in value from whatever you bought it from. Let's see what happens. But, you know, it's sad sitting down with my mates or my family and they haven't connected the dots. And there's only one question that people that achieve something, that, you know, make things happen, that take action, that are winning in all areas of their life. Because if you're not winning financially in your life, you're living in fear, and that's the problem with not living not leading a great life financially or being financially free is, you know, you live in fear. You live in the fear of getting sacked. You live in the fear of that the media creates for you, that unemployment rates are rising or declining, or you live in fear that, you know, you're not going to be able to have enough or provide enough or be enough for your family or your friends or your partner. Like, that's just so shithouse living in that fear space. I think it's so much easier to just achieve financial freedom and start making choices based on what it is that you truly want. So I can't even remember what I was going to say. I'm sorry about that. I was going down a path. I had something that I thought was awesome to say, but as I do, took myself off course. That's why it's good for me to do these podcasts with other people, because they keep my rambling and thoughts to a minimum. So, you know, I've learned some incredible things over the last couple of years as I've, you know, achieved a lot of the things that I wanted to in my life financially and personally, and come out the other side and realized none of this stuff that I thought would make me happy for 10 years has made me any happier. It has given me choices, but if you're not present, if you're not living a life in line with your values day to day, and if you're not doing the work to achieve what it is that you want to achieve in your life, then no amount of money or success or acclaim is ever going to change that. And so I've been working really, really hard on myself, and I have been seeing a psychologist to help me with that, because I've lived so much in the future for such a long period of time. And as investors, this is a major downside. You know, we live in the future. We're always thinking about our next property, our next deal, what it's going to be like in the future when we are financially free and we have everything that we ever wanted to achieve financially. And, you know, when you're living in the future, it can create some anxiety because you put massive amounts of pressure. So I went and saw a great psychologist who's helped me to understand some of these things. And we've been using this ACT model, which is like a model in modern psychology, which is, instead of addressing every issue that you've had in your past, just breathing, learning how to understand your thoughts, learning how to diffuse those thoughts, which means, very simply for me, putting those thoughts in a box. Now, a lot of the time as investors, you probably have a loop as an investor that scares you. And when I say putting that thoughts in a box, that's just that property investment thought. This is an example. That's just that property investment thought that I'm having right now about the property market crashing that scares me. And I have that thought consistently. I've had that thought literally since I started as an investor, because I come from a place where my family don't invest and they don't have money, and I wasn't taught these things when I was a little kid. And I you know, was brought up with a belief system that money's bad, or that people that have money are greedy or selfish. Sometimes this thought around the property market crashing comes into my mind, and it freaks me the fuck out, to be honest with you. And in the old days, what I would do is I would attach to that thought and add a, you know, I'm not a good investor, or I don't have the right strategy, or look at my bank account and go, I've got too much debt, or freak out about some media article I heard about, or, you know, something that I listened to on the Today Show accidentally. You know, it's just all, and I'd hook onto this thought, and this is this ACT principle. Like, we hook onto these thoughts, and that can create anxiety as investors in our lives. And, you know, why I tie this back to this psychology of winning investors is that now that I've learned to, instead of hooking onto it and running away drinking some beers or eating some shitty food or not training, or, you know, watching something that's going to make me even more scared, or going down a YouTube path following, you know, every single video over the last 200 years, like 200 years worth of ideas, not videos, obviously, around property market corrections like I've done in the past. I just go, that's a thought that I'm having. That's a story. That's not me. That's not the reality of the world right now. The world's in a interesting place financially. You know, I do believe that there is, you know, we're going through it already in Australia, but there is a little bit of a mid-cycle slowdown thing happening at the moment where property prices are coming back. I do believe that the share market will take a bit of a hit over the next couple of years, and, you know, we'll see that. This is me documenting my thoughts on that. But I know that this is the most incredible opportunity I've personally had as an investor to actually buy amazing assets, which is why over the last year, despite that fear, I've been very, very aggressive and bought another 4 properties, because I know that when other people aren't buying, it is the time to buy. I know that negative sentiment doesn't sell newspapers or television ads forever, and that I have a very, very short window of time when I can buy things at the prices I can buy them for right now to actually get in there and make the most of it. Now, talking to this psychologist, and I hope you don't mind me just being so honest with you, but I'm literally just sitting on a couch here. Like I said to you, I'm just having a chat. Like, I want to be real with you, and I don't want to pretend like every other tosser in the industry is, that everything's cool all the time and just constantly bullshit. Like, I've had to work on this stuff. I've had to learn how to just go, okay, that's a thought that I have. Another thought that I have as an investor is I hate debt. I personally hate debt, and I want to own every single property that I have outright. And, you know, I've built up this story in my mind that I won't be successful or a happy investor until I have 0 debt. But that's just a story that doesn't really serve me, because if I'm not using leverage, I'm just being lazy with my money. If I'm not using my savings, you know, I'm being lazy with my money as an investor, and it's going to affect my long-term position. So that's just another thought that I have, that, you know, and I put that into the category that I have. And instead of hooking into that one and allowing it to bring me down and freezing me into inaction, or scaring me into selling properties, or scaring me into not buying properties and not taking action in the right direction, I just go, that's a story. You know, another very, very powerful, they call it diffusion technique for investors, is to, when you're having a thought that's either scaring yourself or causing anxiety in your world as an investor, to go, simply label it. I am having the thought that I am frozen in action right now, or I'm having the thought that I'm all alone right now as a property investor, or I'm having the thought that the whole world's going to fall on its head. You know what I mean? And these are thoughts that we all have as investors, because the media is constantly pumping this stuff, and it's okay. When you label it as just a thought, it enables you to separate it from your actual self, or to not hook onto it and to go down that rabbit hole, or to not sit on your ass for the next 5 years and wait for an opportunity, only for people like myself to make another 100% on the right types of properties over then, and further separate ourselves from people that don't take action at the right time. So, you know, these are just my ramblings. You are either the captain or the capture of your thoughts. And because I've had to do this hard work, I don't want to live the rest of my life with anxiety. I don't want to let the lessons I learned when I was a broke little kid affect my entire future. I don't want to be the person that can't separate work from home. I don't want to be that boring one-dimensional person in my personal life that just kicks ass in business financially, but doesn't have an epic relationship with my wife and my kids, that has to grind like everyone else grinds. Like at the moment, for the rest of this year, I'm literally working 3 days a week, because I truly believe that the most important thing for me right now is to just absolutely love life, and to spend time with people I care about, and make sure my mindset is in the great place, and reconnect with myself and remember who I am without working 60, 70 hours a week like I have for such a long period of time. And what I've learned from listening to not just Denis, but also another guy, Wayne Dwyer, is that, you know, life is a series of seasons, and sometimes that season is summer. And when it's summer and springtime, you make the most of those times. But sometimes it's okay for us to be, as investors, exhausted. If you've just bought a property, like, congratulations. Take the time to enjoy it and celebrate what you've just done, and take a bloody breather. Take a little holiday with your partner, or if you just did it on your own, have some beers with your mates and celebrate it and kick ass and get reckless for a little period of time, and then, you know, come back to your natural equilibrium of wanting to move forward in the direction of your life. If you're, you know, sitting there thinking about buying over the next couple of years, then do the education, you know, link it back to your purpose in your life of having better choices. Have the discipline and the focus and keep a positive mindset, you know. Reflect on what you've done and be proud of what you've done, but don't dwell on it too much, and, you know, don't think about the future too much either, or like me, you'll end up with bloody anxiety that you've got to go talk to a psychologist about, which is really just related to burning the candle at both ends for such a long period of time that, you know, it's okay to realize there's a winter time and a time to recover and a time to go, I'm a little bit tired as an investor. You know, I've bought a bunch of properties and I'm just going to take a breather now. Or maybe it's your springtime and, you know, the market right now is prime for like people that are looking to plan. I'll tell you that. Like, there's such bargains around right now for smart people that know where to look and how to find them. So, you know, I don't know if this has been meaningful or not for you. I'm just documenting and sharing my experiences personally, because life isn't always ups, and anybody in this industry that's just selling the sizzle as the Lambos and the boats and the constantly kicking ass thing, they're absolutely just filled with shit from my perspective, and I can't relate to them. My values are so different from them. I just want choices. I want to spend time with my family. I want to travel. I want to do great business with those, you know, five investors is literally all we work with a month now. Like, going from a business where we took on 10, 15, 20, 25 investors a month for so long, to just going, we're not going to take on all those people anymore, even though those people still want to work with us. We're just going to work with 5. It's just so liberating, because now those 5 people get so much access to me, so much access to my amazing sister and brother and Adzi and our team, and it's such a beautiful thing. I'm so excited about where we're going, and yeah, so grateful to be just getting real with you guys and sharing this stuff with you. You know, working on yourself is what winners do. Making stuff happen is what winners do, and the result of making stuff happen and moving forward in the right direction in, you know, one area of your life means that other areas of your life, you know, you start to see the holes and you start coming along. And that's why I'm so grateful that I do train, that I do have a beautiful family, that I do get to live on the sunny coast, that I do work that I absolutely love and have a business that I enjoy, and couldn't see myself doing anything else but property, because I just love it so much. You know, these are things because 10, 15 years ago, I started to take action in this direction, and I want you to have those choices that I'm so fortunate and grateful enough to have. But I also want you to realize that it's taken a huge amount of stress and pressure and, you know, action that other people aren't prepared to take. And, you know, if you want to do those types of things, then you're going to have to, you know, I don't want you walking into it thinking it's all roses and that certain times in the cycle won't be stressful, or that all types of beliefs and values that you have aren't going to create massive pressure for you and freak you out at different times of your journey. So, you know, this is the psychology of a winning investor, I suppose. You know, winning investors do certain things, and there's two sides to every coin, and I'm not going to be the dude sitting here going, it's all peachy, or the dude sitting here going, everything's tough, because life's fucking beautiful and it is what you make it. And there are so many opportunities for you to figure out how to become financially free and to get those choices in your life so that you can do what you love sooner. I wish you absolutely all the best on your journey. You know, if you'd like the opportunity to talk about this a bit further in your personal journey, I'd love to sit down with you and talk about where you are and where you want to be in the future, and help you actually, you know, develop some ideas around how you might get there. Just jump over to www.pumpedonproperty.com and book in a free strategy session with either myself or my brother Simon. But, you know, if you're going out there and doing it on your own, the next couple of years are going to be amazing for smart investors. I cannot wait to buy a property over this period of time personally, and really buy some diamonds in the rough and take advantage of current market conditions when a few people are sitting on the sidelines, which I think a lot of those naysayers will regret what they're saying right now in a couple of years' time. And, you know, like the videos I made 3.5 years ago saying Sydney and Melbourne weren't looking so good and it was time to start thinking about other markets. I love documenting this stuff, and I love, you know, seeing this stuff a couple of years down the track. You know, whether I'm right or wrong, who knows, you know, take everything with a grain of salt. But, you know, I love being able to look at this stuff and get the big picture because I know enough about history, and I'll talk about that more in the future. But thank you, good luck, subscribe, please leave a review if you like this stuff. If you've got any ideas, chuck them on our Facebook page for videos, or our YouTube channel of videos you'd love us to do or podcasts you'd like us to record. But I'm just going to keep getting real with you like we do. You know, go kick ass and do your thing. See ya.